I started out as a complete skeptic. I was a special investigator for the late Dr. Jalen Hynek, who was the consultant to the Air Force Project Blue Book. I was always known for explaining away cases that he even thought were leaning towards, being genuine UFOs. So we decided we wanted to go after Roswell, that we felt we would come down here and in a single weekend wrap this up, that this would be something just as conventional as the weather balloon explanation or something else, just as conventional, just as prosaic. And talking to those first witnesses who described handling the materials that even by today's standards defy conventional explanation. Weightless material that was paper thin, that you couldn't bend, you couldn't dent, you couldn't scratch, you couldn't burn, you couldn't cut. And then other materials that right before your eyes that you could crumble and crease and you could fold up and then release your grasp and it would flow like water between your fingers. Memory material. And we realized that not only were we potentially wrong, but as true investigators that we needed to keep coming back. We needed to flesh this out. We needed to track down as many of the witnesses as we could. The amazing thing is now, after over 25 years, that the consistency of the witnesses, they're all describing the same event, the same thing. They're all describing the same characteristics of the material. And to their deathbeds, they're all saying that it did happen. Deathbed testimonies which are admissible in a court of law. And yet they're all describing the little people, the little men associated with the crash. It's just automatic. You're talking about the biggest story of the millennium. And whether it's interdimensional, whether it's time travel, whether it's parallel universe, it's nonetheless, it's still a phenomenon beyond our comprehension. And I believe that's the reason for even the cover-up after all these years. We still don't have any answers. So what is there to disclose? What is there for any elected official to finally acknowledge, go before the American people, the President of the United States, to actually state that we are not alone, we're being visited by an intelligence off the planet. They're able to fly through our airspace with total impunity. We don't know where they're from, who they are, what they want. But vote for me come next election. The FBI Bureau office in Dallas put out a telex immediately after the weather balloon explanation and said it wasn't true. It said that based on all their telephonic conversation between the military and their office, the weather balloon story was not true. But then they were also taken aside and basically warned. You want to stay connected, you want to stay licensed, you want to stay involved, you want to have your jobs, you cooperate, you listen, you do what you're told. Here are your talking points, and this is all you will say regarding the matter. Just imagine, should the media solve this, should come up with any answers that they never could, and who would have all the egg on their face? Who would truly be embarrassed and look as though all they've done is deceive us for over 60 years and have the culpability of the fact that they also violated the Constitution in using its own military to threaten its citizenry. We have dozens of families that still describe how they were physically threatened, how parents were told, we will kill your children if you ever say another word about this. It has been all essentially buried for fear of ridicule and fear of intimidation, of loss of job. It has broken up more families. It has caused more suicides. I can't tell you how often police officers, for example, who have had legitimate sightings would be driven off the force for nothing more than just reporting the fact. The problem that the subject has always had, and I just caught it just last evening again, at the beginning of Independence Day, just before the initial attack as far as on all the major cities. And it shows all these people up on top of some of the high-rise buildings, some of the skyscrapers, holding up their banners and cheering and take me away and abduct me and take me away from this planet. And that's in the face of their being right there. So it's like we could have a mass landing. We could have a landing on the White House front lawn, and I'm afraid half the people still wouldn't believe it. It's a self-perpetuating cover-up in that regard. That the military just has to sit back. The government just sits back and realizes that they have sowed the seeds of doubt and disbelief to the point that it will take a major effort, a reverse conditioning, a major re-education, and that's where the internet and YouTube and others such, as far as venues of modern day 2013 technology, that we have an opportunity here. We can invite people to share their experiences and not be fearful of ridicule and intimidation. We can present the most accurate, most reliable information from the best researchers in the field who are doing nothing more than striving for the truth. It's up to us collectively, not only to educate, to inform, to enlighten, to present information that is not being presented elsewhere, but then the ultimate goal would be in solving this. Creating an impression, an attitude, a receptive knowledge of the world as a whole, in realizing that if true, and I have no reason to doubt, that there are life forms that exist elsewhere, and that we start to rise up beyond, as far as these binding attitudes, these attitudes of just always accepting what is the status quo. The loss of that pioneer spirit, that ethic that originally drew us to the stars, took us to the moon, and we haven't been to the moon in 50 years. We need to recreate, as far as that whole attitude, and then meet them halfway. If there's anyone coming here, if anything, we're just demonstrating just how naive, uninformed, unconcerned we are with anything beyond our own day-to-day lives. And most people aren't curious. Most people don't want change. They don't like change. They don't like surprises. They don't like anything that ruffles their perception of the world as they know it. Well, I, for one, am here to ruffle their feathers and shake them up and make them realize, whether they like it or not, that not only are we not alone, but our government has demonstrated time and time again that it is not behaving in our best interest. It is preventing that truth from coming out. And I, for one, am constantly going to try to override their authority and say, the truth is right here. All you have to do is come and look for it.
These fragments will have come from various locations centered in and around where we're standing out here. And I'm hoping that the testing that has been done on this material and will be done will conclusively prove that that a extraterrestrial craft went down.